city of 1,000 planets. After centuries of peace and prosperity, an unknown force wants to destroy all we have created.
Thanks for watching Slice of Sci-Fi. I'm Noah Richmond.
And I'm Daren Gulsvik.
We are talking about the movie Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. Something that as comic book geeks has certainly been of interest to us. It's been a very long-running French comic book series, Valerian and Valerian.
Mon Dieu!
And certainly goes back to an era of, I guess, sci-fi storytelling that, you know, is of interest to me, going back to what I think of as somewhat fresher days, for, you know, somewhat less,
Technical?
what shall we say? Yes, technical, cynical, in a lot of
So
times.
Flash Gordon then.
Right. So anyway, also interested in this because it is, and to some degree, Luc Besson's spiritual follow-up to The Fifth Element.
Which is amazing.
A film that I think we both agree is tremendous amounts of fun. And so very curious, we're both very curious to, you know, see how this plays out on the screen, how this comes to life. So what would you say your thoughts were about this movie?
First of all, I love Fifth Element, like I just said. Professional is a great movie as well. So Luc Besson has a...
La Femme Nikita?
Yeah, he's got a rich career of some great movies.
Right.
So yeah, like there was a lot of enthusiasm for this. I hadn't read the comic book like you just mentioned, so
Yeah,
I was familiar with it just because when the movie screener first came out, I was looking at what this was, and obviously seeing the screener, it had the color palette and the that vibe that was in, so made Fifth Element so nice. So generally was excited about this, and it was interesting. How do you want to do this? You want to just go right into it? I mean, because it was something that, you know, learning about the screener, I was excited about it because this was, oh my gosh, we're going to get another in the vein of Fifth Element, and those are fun to watch, and I still have fun to this day watching it. I think it's one of Bruce Willis's most enjoyable parts in his film history, career, and so this was obviously something to be excited about. I was cautious about the actors, of course, and even saying...
So you had some hesitations about the lead actors going into this film?
And I was just going to say the actors I wasn't a fan of, so that was the caution.
Right, you were kind of worried that, you know, since you had not been a fan of seeing them in previous roles, that you might not like them
Correct.
In this. Okay. What about the story itself? Did the story sound like an interesting story, or did you not know too much going into it?
I didn't know enough of it, but which is the way I preferred it because, again, just briefly being introduced to the comic book, so I was kind of going in a blank palette, you know, and so which was something that we think we all want to do when we watch something that we're not familiar with.
Right.
So the only reservations I had going into the course was the actors, which is a pretty big deal, actually. So what about you? I mean.
Yeah, again, I don't know too much about it either. I mean, I suppose we should say, you know, the story is that you have the two leads, Valerian and Lorian, are they're sort of what would you say, kind of like secret agents in a
that's a good way
futuristic
to put it.
Universe, and they're tackling alien encounter intrigues, political intrigues.
Like cleaners.
Yeah. In any case, what would I have to say? You know, for me, I think we'll go ahead and start off the bat with, I think, what pretty much seems, I think this is hardly just our opinion, that you had the hesitations about the actors. I really wasn't too familiar with who they were, but their on-screen chemistry, you really have to wonder who cast them because it's really not there. There's absolutely no chemistry.
Yeah, well, the acting, like I said, That's what this film is supposed to be. The strength of it, you would think,
Right, exactly. This is one of those films that you do expect the heart of it to be, this somewhat romantic chemistry between the leads as they're off adventuring, and at the same time they have this kind of banter between the two of them.
Right.
And yes, it really feels very much like an arranged marriage.
Like tacky and just creepy and.
Yeah, that's true. It's not even lack of chemistry. It's like negative chemistry.
I'd like to know the behind scenes. Did they they hated each other and whatnot?
Right.
But.
Yeah. As for the rest of it, the visuals are really lush, and it really is something that's working to capture a feel of the old-fashioned space opera.
Yes.
Definitely going back to the early Star Wars era before everything was really so strict with the storylines and characterization and being grounded and down to earth. This is much more of a Barbarella flavor to it. And so for me, I actually did have fun with the film just because of what it was. It was something that it was a very high budget, independent film that was clearly somebody's passion project, and it was somebody trying to go back to that era of just pure imagination of like a 60s comic book.
Right.
So I liked that feeling of freshness and fun about it. The editing is, it's a lot of jump cuts, and it's the pace is a little too quick through a lot of it. It's just sort of throwing this at you and then that at you and then the other thing at you. So to me, that did somewhat detract from what I did like about it. Mm-hmm. But on the whole, I still managed to actually, despite its flaws, I had a good time with it. For me, it was not unlike the spirit of The Fifth Element. But it would, I think the film would be much better positioned had they cast better leads that really could have carried the film and brought more chemistry to it.
Well, the acting, again, like I said, going into the movie was something that was concerning me. Cara Delevingne was from what I can remember, Suicide Squad, she was horrible in that movie. I just was, when I first, when I found out she was in that movie too, I was like, okay, well, I don't think that's going to work. And of course, my assumptions were right. So this movie obviously is why I felt that way after just sampling her last work. In a lot of the scenes that she's, her dialogue is supposed to be of emotion and drawing upon this,
Right.
that matches this ongoing storyline, and it feels fake, and the dialogue is actually, the dialogue in the movie is really cheesy, and I can have fun with it provided the acting is kind of going with that too, because Fifth Element had some really cheesy moments too of dialogue, but that still made it was still fun. So,
right.
and again, there's so many scenes that really are relying on that chemistry between the two, and it just never
Right.
develops. And I was distracted the entire time, just waiting for it to end, because I was annoyed by it actually, just to see how bad it was.
Right.
I think in the hands of two seasoned actors, this might have been a much different movie.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, one of the things that was also strange was that they dyed her hair blonde,
Mm-hmm.
but she still had like dark roots and she still had dark eyebrows. So
Right.
it was an obvious dye job, and I was like, well, maybe they were trying to mimic some look from the comic book character. But then I went on and looked at the comic book character, and she's like a redhead. So,
Well, he probably took liberties, and who knows what was going into the movie. The agent probably said, you can't dye her hair or whatever. But
yeah.
Did that distract you?
I just found it strange.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the point of it. If you're gonna make somebody look blonde, make them look blonde.
Right.
Why? What was the point of making her look partially dyed blonde? That was a little distracting to me.
The best part of the entire movie, I even said this as we left, was Rihanna's part. She was amazing in it.
Yeah,
her sequence of dancing and performing, it was
right. Yeah,
really good.
She's somebody I've never been I've never been tuned into, but she definitely showed herself to be a very talented performer.
Yeah, and it almost had, like in the opera scene with Fifth Element, so there's that familiarity with that kind of a setup, and that was really, really well done. And I think you can tell there was lots of moments in there where there was the right idea and passion was executed. But then, of course, we go back to this scenes with, man, I don't know. I would be interested to see where years later, Luke taking a pull back and watching it and seeing if he feels the same way about it. You know when something tastes bad.
Right.
You also know when you see bad acting. It's I don't know. It's pretty obvious to me, and I'm not exactly a talent scout. So, and it was bad enough for me not to enjoy the movie, and that's the end. I mean, I enjoyed moments of it, but again, it just was too much of a distraction for me to fully say, "Oh, this was a great movie."
Right.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, so there you have it. I think we, agree about where the film's limitations were. I was able to enjoy it despite its flaws, and I think that if you're somebody that can go in with the mindset of just wanting to look for, a good old-fashioned cheesy comic book flavor, that you may still be able to enjoy it. You may somewhat disagree.
No, I can agree with that on certain levels. I can see why people might like it, like yourself.
Yeah.
Able to enjoy it a little more.
Right.
It's like those rides that spin around in a circle. I don't like them because I get kind of nauseous from it, and likewise, I got nauseous from that. And some people enjoy it, so I'm not going to knock anybody for liking it for sure. There are definitely things that are truly likable about this movie, which is why it's so frustrating, because we don't get a lot of these space operas in today. And so when you do get them, you want them to be really enjoyable, because that's just a great thing that we don't get a chance to experience very often. And it had to be a passion project.
Yeah.
For him,
For sure.
But, oh well.
Yeah. Oh, I know that's our thoughts on Valerian, and thanks for watching Slice of SciFi.
See you.